we certainly look at the trend line kind of moving through 2024. Obviously, um, election years are tough, but then always sort of the change in administration is tough, particularly when you're moving from kind of one party to another. In our two-party system, is that it tends to inform a lot of economic policy, and consumer sentiment can change. And so I think that there's still, our mind, a fair amount of uncertainty as you get into the middle parts of the year. Again, I'm usually a big believer in whatever was going on in Q4. Like, just because the calendar changes again, like it's not going to magically change because you're in a new fiscal year, right? So, I think we have a fairly good sense of what we think the first quarter will look like. I think that once you get beyond that, I mean, and this isn't unique necessarily to 2025. I mean, this is every year where you're trying to kind of center in on trends and where you think the markets are going to go. But, I think that there's probably a little less clarity there. We obviously pay attention to a lot of the kind of key financial markers that everyone else does. I think that, the challenge, I think there's been some normalization in it, but the challenge going back to 21, 22, 23, and even to extent 24 is that depending on what economic indicators you wanted to look at, I mean, you could make a case for just about anything, right? And you had some that were contradictory, and, you had extremely low unemployment, but you had these crazy high interest rates and inflation. And so, it became very hard to sort of predict what was going to happen. And then, if you just kind of monitor the Fed and their communications, like they're changing their forecast, I mean, every time they meet, right? So it's, well, we're going to do 4 rate cuts. Maybe we'll do 2. Right. And so, it's very hard, as a business leader and somebody who's, trying to navigate all this, to really be able to set your compass in the long term when, the folks that are actually probably affecting it much more than you aren't quite certain where it's going either. So, we continue to just try and drive, the best customer experience that we can, right, and be able to benchmark ourselves against that data, and rely on the fact that, look, if we can share the right level of information with our operators on a day-to-day basis, and we can give them the right tools to effectively do their jobs, that we'll be able to continue to press forward and perform at the higher end of the benchmarks that we look at. The reality is that the restaurant world we operate in today is constantly changing. And so we just need to be dynamic and nimble and willing to change against it. I don't have to like third party to delivery to accept that it's here to stay, right? At the end of the day, I've got to meet my consumer where they want to be met. And our challenge is leaders and operators is to find a way to do that profitably, for our shareholders, and to do it in a way that's, as seamless and undisruptive to, our frontline operations teams as we can.